Hello, I'm Kim Roice, and like you, I'm wild about Washington. Winter in Washington means salmon fishing for a lot of us. With an eye on the weather, it's the season to launch a boat and try to catch what are called blackmouth. Here are a few tips for beginners.
One of the great things about living in the Puget Sound region is we get to fish for salmon during the winter. Most folks don't have that wonderful opportunity. The fish that we're generally fishing for in the winter are nicknamed blackmouth. Blackmouth is really it's an immature Chinook salmon that has not left Puget Sound. Most of the Chinook salmon are going to migrate out to the ocean as smolts, and then they'll see them back in 2, 3, 4 years down the road. But these blackmouth, if you will, they stay in Puget Sound either 1, 2, or 3 years, and they can be anywhere from 8 to 10 inches all the way up to 12 to 15 pounds. Because they stay in the sound throughout the year, they offer folks an opportunity to come out and fish for them in the wintertime when there aren't a whole lot of other mature salmon around. The technique we're using out here today is we're using downriggers. The reason we use downriggers is the downrigger allows us to put the bait at an exact depth. This is a technique that beginners can really take off on and learn very quickly and become proficient at catching blackmouth in a hurry. Basically what the downrigger is a heavy lead ball attached with a stainless steel cable, and then it has a release on it. You can lower this heavy ball of 10 to 15 pounds down to whatever depth you want to fish, depending on where you think the fish are. And because you're using this heavy ball as your weight, you can fish lighter gear and lighter rods, and you don't have to put 3, 4 pounds of lead on your line to fish with, and therefore you get more fight out of the fish. Perhaps one of the easiest techniques to master for downrigger fishing is just to fish what we call a flasher and some sort of terminal gear. So this is just a plastic flasher. It's a pretty common one, and attached to it we have, in this case, a bucktail. Other gears that folks will use, this is called a hoochie. Or a lot of folks will use a spoon of some sort. All of these are really effective techniques, and today we've caught fish on just about all of these gears. Blackmouth tend to be a bottom-oriented critter, so if you're out fishing for blackmouth, you generally want to try to keep your downriggers within 10 feet of the bottom. When you're out fishing for blackmouth, a lot of times you might encounter some what we call sublegal fish, or a lot of people call them shakers. These are fish that aren't quite big enough yet. We want to release them, and we want to make sure that those fish go in unharmed back into the water. Sometimes the hooks that come on this gear are pretty big. They're made for adult salmon, and they have really big bends in the hooks. So what I like to do is pull the hooks down closer to the shank and tighten up this gap between the point and the shaft of the hook. And that really helps reduce the number of times the hook might go through an eye or get lodged deep in the fish. As far as releasing the fish, we want to make sure that we handle any of the sublegal fish as gently as possible. And be sure we use a release stick. Try to keep the fish in the water on the side of the boat. One thing folks need to be concerned about or take care of, we are out here in the middle of January, and it's cold, the water's cold, and you really need to just be careful that either your boat is equipped to handle some rough water, or that you pick your day carefully on when you're going to go out. We've actually got a nice sunny day out here today, but it's pretty rough around the corner where the wind's blowing. We've actually had to move out of the wind in order to find a good place to fish. Be sure to watch the weather forecast and the weather itself so you don't get caught out here in a big storm.
The most popular Washington game species is deer. Most of the hunting occurs in late fall. To monitor the health of this resource and to collect information from hunters, the agency maintains check stations, made possible thanks to many volunteers.
We do this every year to monitor the age of the animals that are being harvested. We look at how many antlered deer are taken relative to antlerless deer. We interview the hunters to find out what kind of success rates they've had. But in recent years especially, we're looking at monitoring for chronic wasting disease. Of course, we don't have that in Washington yet, but we want to make sure we're monitoring for it, so we're checking every deer that comes through for that. We're also taking some DNA samples just so that we can kind of get a base of the DNA from the different wildlife species that come through. One thing that might be a little bit unique to northeastern Washington is, again, because we do have so many white-tailed deer, we tend to be able to take a lot more antlerless harvest with that. And we have seasons specifically set for youth, senior, persons with disability. We have some permits called doe permits out there. And opening weekend seems to be a time when a lot of especially the youth gets out, and they take a lot of antlerless animals. When you average everything together, you get a certain success rate, whether it be 20% or 30% or something like that. But when you talk to individual hunters, some hunters get a deer almost every year. They have a lot of experience. They may also have a really good area to hunt. Maybe they own some private land that's really a good area and is a little bit easier than someone else that has to go out and find a new spot. But lots of hunters go several years without getting a deer. Anybody taking up hunting for the first time or observing hunting and expecting that a person's going to bring home a deer that day, the odds are likely that you're not going to. It's going to be a while. You've got to gain some experience. Part of it's luck. A lot of it is access to reasonable hunting land. So there's a lot more that goes into it than just, a statistic that says a fourth of the people are going to get a deer.
During the recent deer season, we watched one young hunter as she learned the outdoor traditions from her grandfather. But even more important, hunting is a bond that gives a grandfather and his granddaughter an opportunity to spend time together and build family memories.
I think it's fun hunting with my grandpa, and I like getting deer.
Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife has increased the hunting opportunities for both youth and the over 65, and to promote hunting amongst the young people, and now it's a pretty good opportunity for them to get started and develop an interest, and I'm all for that. So last year when she got her hunter ed class finished, we went out hunting, and she had gone through a rather extensive practice session with shooting and hunting gophers and things to get familiar with the rifle. And last year, the first day, we were unsuccessful in getting deer, but she had a good time, wanted to go again, and in fact, the second day, we found a deer, and she got it, and has been pretty happy and interested in hunting since.
I took hunter education last year when I was 11 years old, and I took it at the Inland Northwest Wildlife Council teachers. I learned a lot about safe shooting around deer and where to shoot the deer, and a lot of wildlife.
One of the biggest things about it is that you have to learn to be able to sit still for quite extensive time. She's, I think, pretty well aware that there's a total experience in the hunting. As she told me, that she gets a chance to see some of the other animals doing their thing, and so it's the total experience, and she's aware of the fact that to kill something is not the only thing that you benefit from in hunting. And so if she doesn't get one, well, that's all right. There's always next year. She's already been out in cold and wet and miserable and long hours, and she's still here.
I like to be with my grandpa because we can spend one-on-one time together.
A Seattle grade school has become a model of environmental education for our state. In doing this, the teachers have learned that students are now taking a wider interest in all their classes.
I use environmental education as the vehicle to be able to teach math and science and reading and writing and social studies and art. What a great opportunity. Kids don't have to open a textbook. They can go out here and they can be challenged with inquiry and be able to problem solve in the forest.
And this is big leaf maple, and there's some licorice fern. And if you got stung of a stinging needle, just rub this under it, and it feels good.
I think it's truly remarkable what Dearborn students and staff have accomplished. Smack dab in the middle of one of America's largest urban corridors, you've managed to create a unique outdoors classroom, a 5-acre open-air laboratory that allows students to leave the classroom, leave the box, learn outside the box, if you will, and experience the environment in a way most city school children can only dream about.
That's holly from it's an invasive, come from England.
The children can learn about the cycle of the forest, learn about the seasons, they experience it, they understand the ethnobotany of the forest, how the Native Americans use these plants, and they find out what plants are okay. If you're ever lost in the woods, you can use them. They also have come to me at the end of the year and said, you know, Ms. Hunt, if I happen to be at home and my family is having a tough time, I can come to the forest and feel safe and feel at peace. And it's a place where I can think. Talk about a wonderful benefit. Something added, a place that they can feel good in, feel safe in.
And this right here is a big leaf maple and a licorice fern.
Here's where you can see Washington's wildlife during the coming weeks. This has been Wild About Washington, brought to you by the employees of the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. Working together, we can keep Washington's outdoor heritage for future generations. Thank you for watching, and please join us again.